Hey guys, I hope you're doing awesome. First and foremost, I want to say thanks so much for buying these presets. I really appreciate the support. It allows me to continue making photos and content for you guys, so thanks a lot. Secondly, this tutorial is broken up into 3 sections: easy mode, intermediate mode, and hard mode. Just kidding. It never really gets hard, but I wanted to break it up this way so that if you are already familiar with using presets in your workflow, you can just skip around to sections 2 and 3, and that way I don't waste any of your time telling you things you might already know. So section 1 is going to cover the basics. It's going to be how to install the presets, how to apply them. It's going to be how to reverse engineer a grade by combing through the panels so you can see what the adjustments are that were being made. And it's also going to cover how presets are made in general. Section 2 covers applying the presets and adjusting the settings on photos that have similar looks. It also covers why I don't include masking in these presets, and then it covers a brief masking tutorial if you don't know how to do that. So that'll be good for that. And then number 3 is going to cover how to apply these presets on a trial and error basis to different styles of photos so that you can still get great results with just a little bit of tweaking. It's also going to go a little bit more into my own workflow and how I approach editing images, as well as give you a little bit of insight of what I'm thinking when I'm editing photos. So let's get into it. All right, so to import the presets, you want to make sure that you are on the develop page, which is here on the top right. You want to go over to the plus sign on the presets panel, hit plus, import presets. I've had this queued up clearly, but it'll be wherever you save these when you downloaded them. You're going to hit import. It's going to tell me that I'm unable to import these because I already have them. For you, it should populate them right over here on this left-hand side, and you should be able to see them here, and you should be able to click the drop down and have all the presets. So I tried to make this as easy as possible, and I included images that are named after the presets themselves so that you know which preset goes along with which photo, and you can find that name right here on this top section. And so for image 1, it's going to be Vaticano. I'm going to apply the Vaticano preset, and boom, just like that, super easy. Monterosso Gardens is going to be this one. So I'm going to click Monterosso Gardens. This one's called Capri Sailing, as you see here. So Capri Sailing. This one is called Swiss Gold 2. So I'm going to go to the Swiss Gold 2 preset. I'll increase the exposure a bit just because it's a little low for my taste. I'm going to go to Swiss Gold 1 here. Same thing, I might increase the exposure a bit. It's a little hard for me to see because I've got this big light blasting me in the face, so if that's a little wonky on the screen cap end, that is why. This one's going to be Vieques Rustic. Same thing, I'm going to increase the exposure a little bit. I tend to underexpose a bit when I shoot just because I know that what my camera is capable of as far as the shadows are concerned, getting them back, getting the information back, but I don't want to blow out highlights, so I just always err on the side of caution when that comes to that. This one's going to be Golondrinas Reef. That one needs a little bit of tweaking. Probably bring the highlights down a bit, maybe even bring the exposure down a little bit, maybe increase the shadows a bit, and that's looking a lot better for me. I'm going to go to this one's Crash Boat Blue, I believe. And then this one is Canyonlands Desert. Super underexposed. This was just after sunset. I pretty much was flying my drone back to me, and I saw this car and was like, wow, this is going to be crazy. So super underexposed, so I increased the exposure a bit, dropped the highlights down even a little more, maybe increase the vibrance just to get some of the color back into the scene. And there you have it. That's the whole tutorial. I hope you enjoyed, and I am just kidding. So it's really easy for me to do that, drag and drop these presets on these images and get good results because I'm the photographer who took these photos, right? So I kind of want to get in a little bit to how presets are made, and I don't want to get into the weeds with this. If you've already used presets before, you're already really familiar with Lightroom, you can feel free to skip this section. It might be a little redundant for you. But if you're new and you're new to presets, you might want to listen up just so that you get the most bang for your buck when it comes to these presets and presets you buy in the future, because nothing's worse than buying a preset pack and then trying to apply them to a couple images that you have and it not looking anything like you had hoped and not understanding why. Okay, so I included the images that I created these presets on for two reasons. One, for ease of explanation when it comes to dragging and dropping them. And number two, because I wanted you to have the most clear understanding of what types of images these were created on, so that you know in your own portfolio where these might fit best, right? So that you know Swiss Gold 2 was created from this image. So I literally adjusted the grade, adjusted all the panels. I liked it for the whole batch of this session, and it worked really well. And then it's worked really well in the future on other photos that have this type of color palette. So that's why I saved it, but it was created off of this original image. And I think that's really important to know, because if you tried to apply, say a jungle preset that's got a lot of greens in it, maybe it's sunrise, and you try to apply that same preset to, say a desert scene, you're going to get completely different results, right? Because the colors are different, the lighting is probably different, your camera settings are probably different. So it's really important to know going in what you're going to get, and I've tried to make that as easy as possible here. That being said, it doesn't mean that you can't use presets that were designed for one type of photo for other types of photos. You just kind of have to know how to go about it. And that's where kind of reverse engineering the grade comes in. So what I mean by that is I can take, this preset that I have here and reset it to the factory settings, reset it to the original settings. And then when I go to the Swiss Gold 2 preset, it shows me here on the right-hand side exactly what I did when I created this look, right? I boosted the shadows, I reduced the whites, I boosted the blacks just to kind of flatten out the image, I reduced the clarity, and so on. I went into the tone curve, I lifted these blacks, I lowered the whites, and so on and so forth. So basically, you can go through the panels and you can look exactly what I did, and you can say, oh, okay, what I really like about Caleb's work is how they look matte. The images look matte, and they look little filmic. Well, that comes from the tone curve. Or I really like the way he uses his makes his blues look like this kind of like desaturated muted blue. Okay, well then you can go to the blues and the aquas and see exactly what I did to achieve that kind of look. So not only is it important to know how presets work, I think it's also important for yourself to create your own style, to just look through the panels, see what you like about certain things, see what you don't like, and then that way you can learn how to adjust things to suit your taste. All right, so now that we understand how presets are made, let's go ahead and apply the same preset to a couple different images with a similar look and just see how that affects things and adjust accordingly. So as I said in section 1, when you're applying a preset to multiple images, you're going to get the best results when the color palette is really similar. So I'm going to go to Crash Boat Blue, and I'm going to select this other ocean photo. I've reset all of these. Remember, this is the one that it was designed off of, Crash Boat Blue. So if I go to this Golondrinas Reef one and I try to apply this Crash Boat Blue, it works pretty well, right? So the blues are a little bit more chalky looking. It's less this aqua green color, but overall it's not bad, right? So what I would probably do to make this even better was I might enhance the exposure a bit. I might increase the contrast, bring down the highlights. Let's see what else. I might increase the vibrance here just to give it a little bit more vibrance. And then I'm not really liking what this looks like in relation to everything else. It kind of pokes out to me, and this is going to be yellow and orange. So I'm going to go down to the color mixer, and I'm going to go to the yellow, and I'm going to decrease the saturation, and bang, that takes care of that. So right away you can kind of see that fixed this problem and kind of unified the image. I really try to, as best I can, unify colors in an image. So in the instance of there being a lot of blue water, if there's something yellow that's sticking out, I'll try to eliminate that just because it's a distraction. And you get really good results this way. And if you're smart about how you use, wardrobe or things like that, like whenever we shot this, she was actually in an orange dress so that it would complement this blue tone. It's a little red, so I can actually change that here. To make it more of that orange color that we were after and desaturate it a bit. That was intentional. So when you're shooting, you can plan for that type of stuff and know that in Lightroom you can create a complementary color scheme by desaturating certain colors or shifting certain hues and so on. That's how you would apply a preset to another image that has a similar palette, and then you can make those small adjustments and get pretty good results. So I wanted to go over masking a little bit in this section. So I don't include masking in these presets, meaning they're not baked in to the presets, because the lighting scenario is going to be completely different in every image. Even if you're shooting in the same type of environment, masking is all about directionality and is about drawing focus, right? So in this image, this Vaticano image, you can see I'm standing here in the window, the light's coming in from left to right. And so if I had given you a preset that had, a gradient over here for something I made off of a different photo, it wouldn't make a lot of sense, right? So briefly, I want to go over how I might approach masking in a photo like this. First of all, I'm going to add this Vaticano preset back to the image so it has some of this blue shadow and this filmic look with the lifted blacks that you can see here in the tone curve. And then I'm going to go up to this masking palette here, panel here, sorry. And I'm going to create, let's try a linear gradient. So I'm going to do a linear gradient. I'm going to drag it from left to right. And then I'm going to increase the exposure a little bit. I'll bring down the highlights. I'll lift the shadows. Maybe I'll increase it even a little more. Okay, so I'll turn it off and on, see what it's doing. So I like what it's doing here, right? But it doesn't make a lot of sense for the sun to be lighting up this area. Maybe you like that, maybe you like seeing the detail. That's cool. But for me, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So what I like to do, and this is a little trick I have, is I like to subtract. And when I subtract, I use another linear gradient. And I basically just do the exact same thing. And I look at the gradient and I kind of match it up with what makes sense. So the window edge here. That way I'm still getting the effect from this first gradient in this area, but I'm not getting the spill over here on this left side. So I'd probably do something like that to that image. And then if I wanted to take it even further, I could probably use a gradient just to darken this bottom edge, just to really draw the focus, reduce exposure a little bit, increase the contrast, drop the shadows a bit, highlights. Usually what I like to try to do is I like to try to avoid decreasing the exposure at first. I try to get the results I want with adding contrast or decreasing highlights and decreasing shadows, just because it tends to look a lot more natural. When you start messing with the exposure too much, it just starts to look really crunchy and starts to kind of break the image. So I will adjust the exposure. I usually just try to do it after the fact so I can see what I can get out of these others. And then I might even come down to the curve here and just kind of get a smooth roll off on that exposure. All right, so that's it. So just like that, you can kind of see it shifted the attention a little bit from being all about all of this to really highlighting the dude in the photograph, which is me. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to take all the presets and apply them to one image just to see what kind of different results we get with different presets and what kind of adjustments that I might make if I were in that scenario to get a result that would suit my taste. All right, so I'll go to this Vaticano image. I'll reset it to the original settings, and I'll just go down the list. I'll go Canyonlands. It's a little HDR and crunchy for me. This one's like super, super filmy looking and very muted. Crash Boat. That's kind of interesting. I actually quite like this. So this is a good example. So Crash Boat was made off of this image, and the preset works really well for this image. So what I'm not liking about this that we can fix is this blue tone up here on the top of this of St. Peter's. And what I can do is I can just go identify which blue it is. Is it this aqua? No, it is this regular blue color. All right, and I think it's just a saturation problem. It's super saturated because in the Crash Boat scene, there's an ocean, and I probably wanted that saturation, but here we definitely don't want that. So let's bring that down, and we can almost just bring it all the way out of there. Maybe even decrease the lightness. It's looking a little fake for me. See up here, it looks pretty fake. So we can maybe even just reset that and see what it looks like, and bring it down a little bit. And I like that. I like that quite a bit, actually. We did lose a bit of blue in the sky. So let's see what we can do about that. Cool. So what I'll probably do is I'll probably reset this. And then I can go into mask, create a brush mask. I'll go ahead and just, I usually do this after. Actually, you know what? We'll just create the mask itself. So I'm just going to paint really roughly on this. I would do this a lot more carefully if I was actually going to do this for real. But just for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to draw on this section that is too blue. And I'm just going to manually bring down the saturation. All right, that's pretty good. Maybe even warm it up a little bit. Yeah, that looks a lot more realistic. So basically what I did was I just used that brush to bring down the saturation and then also just warm it up with the temperature here. And that looks pretty good. Before, after, and then I was able to maintain this blue. So I like that pretty well. That's pretty good. All right, let's reset it again. We'll go down even further. I mean, this isn't even worth messing with because it would be a complete re-edit. So that's a good example. So like this is a scenario where this preset to make this work would just be more trouble than it's worth, right? So I'm just going to skip over to the next one. This one isn't bad. It's pretty, the colors are pretty desaturated. Paris Street Lamp. These two actually, Paris Pont Neuf and Paris Street Lamp, are actually were actually designed off portraits. So that it was my girlfriend when we were in France took some portraits of her. So those might work well for you for some portraits. Yeah. The original, and then Vieques. Vieques looks pretty good too, and actually looks a lot like Crash Boat. All right, so let's move on to the next. We'll go to this one, back to Monterosso Gardens. And even Monterosso Gardens, honestly, without an adjustment, looks a little bit, her skin tone looks a little bit too pink for me. So I'll just go ahead and fix that. I'll go up to this mask tool, select person, body skin, facial skin, create mask. All right, now I can go into tint here and I can just bring back the magenta. So this is where it was, and then we'll bring some green into her skin, maybe warm it up a little bit, and already that looks way better. So this is before, this is after, just looks a lot more natural. Maybe bring down the saturation a little bit. Cool. So that's even with the preset that I actually used for that. This original photo actually took it into Photoshop and shifted this color so it wasn't so bright and pink. So this is Capri Sailing. This is the original. Let's try a couple different ones. Absolutely not. Crash Boat Blue. Not bad. Not bad. I quite like this one. This one looks pretty nice. So I really like what the tone of the water here. Don't love what it's doing to her skin. It's making her skin super orange, and then the highlights are pretty blown on her hat. So let's go ahead and bring the highlights way down. Maybe we can even bring the exposure down a bit. That's a little bit better. We'll bring up the shadows just because it's pretty dark. So basically I'm seeing that this was super dark. So I brought that up. Let's bring down the vibrance a bit. Okay, now let's get into the color mix. I really want to address this skin tone. It's like actually it's way better now that we increased the shadows a bit. The shadows were adding a little bit of contrast, which makes it a little more saturated. So yeah, there we go. So now I just literally just desaturated the orange, and that's pretty good. So that's that's with, what was that? Yeah, Monterosso Gardens. And the original was Capri Sailing. So if we go back to Capri Sailing, I actually might like this more once I made those adjustments. I really like this kind of grayish blue in the water. Okay, let's move on to the next. So this is interesting because, and I already know this because I made these presets, that the Swiss Gold 2 works really well because that's the one that I made this. This is the image that I made the preset from. But Swiss Gold 1 actually isn't great for this because Swiss Gold 1 was created off of this image, and there's far less green in that image, in this image here, than there is in this. So if I reset this, you can see all this green here. And if I reset this, there's hardly any green. I basically just enhance the gold that's already here in this kind of yellow dirt color. Yellow dirt, if that's a color. And based on that, you get different results, right? So Swiss Gold 1, Swiss Gold 2, it's not bad. It's not super vibrant. But when you go back to this one, that Swiss Gold 2, and you try to use Swiss Gold 1, it really doesn't address those greens, so it doesn't work very well. All right, let's try a couple others. Way too HDR and bright. This isn't bad. This feels pretty, this feels like film to me, which I actually kind of like. This kind of retro-y blue tone. It's a little strong. So maybe we'll go down to color mixer and go to the aqua and just bring down the saturation a little bit. Oh, it wasn't even the aqua. It was regular blue. Yeah, that's a little better. And then overall, I think this is just a bit green. So maybe we just change the tint a little bit, and that already looks a little better. See, it was like down in this section. And a lot of that you just get over time. You might not see that right off the bat, but the more you grade, the more seat time you get doing this, the more you're going to see those little things. Yeah, so not bad. Way too crazy. Monte Rosso Gardens. Pretty dramatic and not terrible. It's pretty red. Or sorry, pretty orange. So let me reduce the tempo a bit. Yeah, that's pretty good. Not bad. Maybe decrease the vibrance a bit. So as you can see, I'm just kind of identifying what it is I like and don't like about, once I make the preset. I'm not relying on the preset to just give me a banging result right away. I'm just getting close to something I like, and then I'm making the adjustment. So Vieques Rustic, this is the one that was made off of this batch of images, which I like because that's what it was designed for. And then let's see what else we can get. These portrait ones clearly aren't working. Monte Rosso, not surprised because guess what? This photo is the Monte Rosso photo, and this photo has a ton of green in it. So not surprised that this works well. This is actually kind of nice. It's like a warmer take on it. Crash Boat, let's see, Capri Sailing. Oh, this one's not bad. Crash Boat Blue, man, Crash Boat Blue is kind of hitting today. Yeah, I like this a lot too. And then Capri Sailing, Canyonlands. Capri Sailing is very, very, very green. I'm just going to mess with this just for fun. Take the yellow out and see what we get. Sometimes when you have this vibrant green, it's actually coming from the yellow channel, but in this case, it looks like it is actually just coming from green. So we just shift that around and see what we like. Yeah, I'll just almost saturate this all the way. And then maybe shift it over more toward the blue side. And then this yellow, where the deck is, I'd bring that more towards orange. But then what ends up happening is you end up basically creating the other preset. You create this preset. Well, not really. They're different. Okay, so there's that one. The original Monte Rosso, not bad. I think we already went through this, but Monte Rosso Gardens, if you didn't check into section 2, basically what we did was we reduced the yellow in the reef here just to kind of unify the color. There we go. And that looks pretty good. And then we shifted this dress on the day was actually orange, and it's more of a red color because of the preset, what the preset's doing. So you can just saturate that, push that more to orange so we get that complementary tone with the blue. And then I would probably crop this because she's not centered, and it's really annoying. Cool. And then finally, we'll just skip on to this one. This is Canyonlands. This is the original. Clearly the exposure is way off, so I'm going to increase the exposure quite a lot. I could even stick with this, maybe blow out the sky. You could mess with some of this stuff where you use a mask, select the sky, really push that, kind of get like a alien looking tone to saturate the rest of the image, you kind of get this interesting looking tone. Or I could do the opposite. Take the sky, bring it down a bit, get some of that color back, bring the highlights down, maybe boost the saturation rather, and then get a not bad result, and then decrease vibrance, hop in the color mixer. Cool. All right, so that's it. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate the support. Thanks again for buying this preset pack. And overall, my priority is that you are satisfied with these presets. So if you have any questions whatsoever, just shoot me a DM. If I don't answer, drop a comment on a post and say, hey, I DM'd you, just because sometimes it might get filtered and I might not check the filtered section of the Instagram. So do that, and then that way I can get back to you and address any concerns you might have. And yeah, be on the lookout for new presets in the future. Stay tuned to everything that I got coming up, and thanks so much.